Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something a little different. We usually look at modern trends, tech breakthroughs, or maybe big historical events that change the map. But today I have a document in front of me that feels, well, it feels like a riddle.
It definitely looks like one at first glance.
It really does. I picked
Yeah.
this up, looked at the title page, and it says the Hyderabad City Police Act, 1348F. Now, my first instinct was, okay, we're going back to the Middle Ages, knights, castles, maybe a dragon or two. But then I started reading the actual text, and it's talking about motor vehicles, electricity, and traffic lights. So before we do anything else, you have to solve this time travel mystery for me. What is 1348F?
Right, it is a classic gotcha moment for anyone not familiar with the region's history.
Yeah.
The 1348F refers to the Fazli calendar. It was a harvest calendar historically used in the Deccan region of India. If you translate that strictly to the Gregorian calendar we use today, we aren't in the 14th century at all. We are actually landing in the late 1930s.
Okay, so late 1930s. The world is on the brink of World War II. Technology is moving fast. Cities are expanding. And in Hyderabad, they are writing a rule book.
Exactly. And calling it a rule book is almost selling it short. This is the Hyderabad City Police Act. And while the title sounds dry, what we are actually looking at is the source code for a massive, bustling metropolis.
That is the exact vibe I got. When you think police act, you usually think
Yeah.
about catching robbers, crime scenes, fingerprints, detectives in trench coats. But this document, it feels like it is trying to do something much bigger. It feels like an operating system for the city itself.
That is the perfect analogy. This is Act number 9 of 1348F, and its mission is to choreograph the chaos. You have to imagine Hyderabad in the late 30s. It's a total melting pot. You have narrow medieval streets in the old quarters. You have modern cars mixing with cattle carts. You have massive religious processions, street vendors, aristocrats, and everything in between. This act is the blueprint for keeping that complex machine from grinding to a halt.
It really covers the spectrum. I mean, we are going to talk about everything from riot control to, well, dog catching. It is incredibly broad.
It has to be. A city isn't just buildings. It's the flow of people and things. And this document tries to regulate every single bit of that flow.
But let's start at the top. Every operating system needs an admin. The Act establishes a very specific hierarchy, and I found a term in the definitions that I just loved. It refers to the Commissioner of City Police, which sounds very modern, but then it notes they were historically, or in the context of the text, referred to as the Kotwal Balda.
The Kotwal. That is a title with serious historical weight.
It sounds heavy. It sounds incredibly authoritative.
It is. In the Mughal and Deccan systems, the Kotwal wasn't just a police chief. They were almost like a mayor and a sheriff combined into one role. They held the keys to the city. They were responsible for the markets, the jails, the safety, even the morals of the city. So when this act uses that term, it is bridging the gap between that ancient absolute authority and a modern bureaucratic police force.
And the structure they build around this Kotwal is intense. It is basically a solar system.
It really is. Chapter 2 lays it out very clearly. The administration of the police force vests entirely in the commissioner. They are appointed by the government. They can be removed by the government.
Yeah.
But inside the force, they are the sun.
Right. And below them, you have this cascade. You have deputy commissioners, assistant commissioners. But the act gets very granular about control. The commissioner has the power to appoint and promote inspectors and sub-inspectors.
Yeah.
It is a strict top-down command structure. There is no ambiguity about who is in charge.
There can't be. You are building a uniformed force where hesitation can be dangerous. Discipline is the currency here. The act gives the commissioner the power to dismiss, discharge, demote, or suspend officers. But what is fascinating to me are the micro-punishments.
Oh, I saw that. Section 7. It is not just a binary you are fired or you are fined. It lists punishments for officers inferior to a head constable who behave insolently.
Right. If you talk back, or if you are lazy, or if you just have a bad attitude.
It says they can be sentenced to attendance in a police station for up to 3 days.
Which is essentially adult detention.
That is exactly what I thought. It is literal go sit in the corner energy.
It is being confined to barracks
Right.
or given extra duty. It is a way to correct behavior without losing the manpower. Because remember, they needed everybody they had.
Yeah.
Being a police officer under this act wasn't a 9-to-5 job where you clock out and forget about it.
And that was the other thing that jumped out at me. Section 16, the heading is literally police officer to be deemed always on duty.
Always.
So if I am a constable in 1939 and I have finished my shift, I have taken off my boots, maybe I'm heading to get some tea and I see a crime happen across the street, I can't just close the blinds.
Absolutely not. Section 16 is explicit. Unless you are suspended or on official leave, you are considered on duty throughout the city limits at all times. You are an embodiment of the law 24/7.
Hmm.
Even if you aren't wearing the uniform, you carry the responsibility.
That is a heavy psychological burden. You never really clock out. You are always watching.
You don't. And that sets the stage for what they're actually supposed to be watching. Because, as you hinted at earlier, a huge chunk of this document isn't about crime in the detective novel sense. It is not about finding the murderer. It is about flow.
Choreography, as you called it.
Mhm.
Which brings us to Section 21. Power to make rules for regulation of traffic and for preservation of order. Now, today, when we say traffic, we mean cars, maybe a bus, maybe a bicycle lane if we are feeling fancy.
But in Hyderabad, in 1348F, traffic is a chaotic mix of everything. The Act explicitly mentions regulating vehicles, yes, but also cattle and people walking and handcarts.
I just love the specificity of the unwieldy articles. The Act doesn't just say, hey, don't block the road.
Yeah.
It empowers the commissioner to regulate the manner of conveying timber, poles, bamboo ladders, bars, iron beams.
It creates such a vivid image, doesn't it?
It really does. You can just picture it.
You can close your eyes and see the narrow streets of the old city. Imagine it is rush hour, or the 1930s equivalent. If someone decides to carry a 20-foot bamboo pole horizontally across the street,
The whole city stops. You take out 3 fruit stands and a rickshaw.
exactly, it completely gridlocks the market. So the police aren't just enforcing laws, they are managing the geometry of the street. They're saying, you can carry the ladder, but you have to angle it this way, or you move it at this time. It is spatial management. They're trying to fit a rapidly growing city into ancient streets.
It is the city saying, we need to function. But Section 21 has another clause that I have to ask you about because it made me laugh out loud. It caught me completely off guard.
I think I know which one you mean.
It is about licensing places of public amusement. The commissioner can grant licenses, sure. But subsection 3 says the commissioner can refuse a license if the applicant is, and I am quoting the law here, a notorious scoundrel or a bad character.
It is fantastic phrasing. Legal language is usually so dry, so incredibly precise, the party of the first part, and so on. And then suddenly you just get notorious scoundrel.
It sounds like a character from a Dickens novel. Get out of here, you notorious scoundrel. But my real question is, who decides? Who decides if I am a scoundrel or just a guy with a loud laugh who people find annoying?
The commissioner decides. That is the Cotwell's absolute power again. It is incredibly subjective. There's no legal definition of a scoundrel. It is a reputation test. But look at what they are regulating under public amusement. It is not just theaters.
No, the list is wild. I have it here. It covers circuses, theaters, music halls, billiard rooms, gymnasiums, but then it pivots hard. It also lists places selling sendi, wine, ganja, toddy, bung, or opium.
Right, so in the eyes of the law, a gymnasium and an opium den are both places of amusement that need strict watching.
That is a very strange grouping. Working out and getting high.
It is about public order. The police needed the authority to stop a bad character, maybe someone with a history of running illegal gambling or getting into fights, from running a toddy shop. They are linking moral policing directly with public safety. They are trying to prevent the conditions where crime actually happens.
So it is preventative. If we don't let the scoundrel open the bar, we won't have a bar fight next month.
Precisely. And that logic extends to the biggest challenge in Hyderabad, which is crowds.
Right. Hyderabad is a city of massive festivals, different religions, huge processions. It is vibrant, but I imagine it could be volatile. You have very different groups sharing the exact same tight space.
Incredibly volatile. And the Act seems obsessed with keeping that vibrancy from turning into violence. This is Section 22.
Power to regulate assemblies and processions.
This is the core of maintaining peace in a diverse city. The police commissioner has the authority to dictate the conduct of all assemblies. They can prescribe the routes, they can set the specific times.
So it is not just you have a right to march. It is you can march, but only on this specific street between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., and you must keep moving.
And notice the specific goal mentioned in the text. It explicitly talks about preventing obstruction, particularly in the neighborhood of places of worship during time of public worship.
That is very specific. It feels like it comes from hard experience.
It almost certainly does. It is avoiding the clash. If one community is having a silent prayer and another community wants to have a loud procession with drums right outside, that is a recipe for a riot. The police are there to act as the buffer. They are literally scheduling the city's soundtrack.
Speaking of the soundtrack, they actually regulate the music itself. Section 22 mentions music and singing and the beating of drums.
It is sound management as conflict resolution. But what happens if the management fails? What if the scoundrel opens the shop, the drums get too loud, and violence actually starts brewing?
That leads us to the nuclear option, Section 23.
Section 23 is heavy.
This one actually shocked me. It says if a riot or serious disturbance is imminent, the commissioner can essentially take possession of a building.
It is a massive expansion of power.
It sounds like martial law. I am taking your house.
In the heat of the moment, yes. The text says they can temporarily take possession of or close down a building or place to prevent a riot. Now, to be fair to the text, the act does include a provision to compensate the lawful occupier later for any loss. They aren't stealing the house permanently.
Sure, you get a check in the mail later. But in that moment, the police own your roof.
It highlights that preservation of order was the supreme directive. Individual property rights took a backseat to the stability of the city. If your balcony is the perfect place for a sniper or a rock thrower, or if your shop is about to be looted and burned, the police are taking control of that space.
So we have got the cot wall, we have got the scoundrels, and we've got the riot control. But I want to pivot now, because for all this heavy, intense stuff, there are parts of this deep dive that surprise me because they feel almost mundane.
You mean the odd jobs?
The odd jobs, the things that today we would expect a completely different government department to handle. But in 1348F, it was the cops doing it.
You're talking about the dogs.
I am absolutely talking about the dogs. Section 27. The Hyderabad City Police were effectively the dog catchers.
It sounds funny to us now, but Section 27 is brutal and incredibly practical. It gives the police the power to destroy stray dogs.
Destroy is the word they use. And not just that, they could require muzzling. They could seize dogs found without collars. It says if a dog isn't wearing a collar, it can be destroyed or sold.
You have to contextualize this for the listener. In this era, a stray dog wasn't just a nuisance or a sad animal. It was a severe biological hazard. Rabies was a terrifying reality. A pack of wild dogs in a market could cause panic, biting incidents, massive disease outbreaks.
And there was no animal control department with a nice van to call.
Exactly. The police were the only agency with the boots on the ground and the authority to use force. So public health essentially becomes a police matter.
And it wasn't just dogs either. Section 42 talks about cattle pounds.
Right.
If you had a stray cow or buffalo wandering the streets, the police would impound it. They would appoint a keeper for the pound. It is basically a jail for cows.
Again, this goes right back to traffic. A stray cow in a busy intersection is a traffic accident waiting to happen. The police are clearing the road. But there is another administrative duty in there that is even further removed from crime fighting. Section 45.
Weights and measures. This one blew my mind completely.
Power to inspect weights and measures.
Explain this to me. Why is a police officer walking into a grocery store and putting the vegetables on a scale? That seems like a job for a bureaucrat, not a guy with a baton.
Think about the friction points in a city. Where do fights start?
Bars and, I guess, markets.
Markets. If a shopkeeper is cheating customers by using a 1 kilogram weight that actually acts like 800 grams, people get ripped off. They get angry. Arguments break out. Fights start. A sense of unfairness permeates the market. If people don't trust the scales, commerce breaks down and tempers flare.
So it is essentially consumer protection.
It is consumer protection, but wielded as a form of policing. By enforcing fair trade, the police were preventing the root causes of minor public conflicts. You stop the argument before it becomes a punch-up. It is a very holistic view of order.
That actually makes a lot of sense. It is civil husbandry, isn't it? Pruning the bad behaviors.
I like that term, civil husbandry. They are tending the garden of the city, and they're also the lost and found department.
Section 39. Police to take charge of unclaimed property.
If you found a wallet or a bag and turned it in, the commissioner would issue a proclamation. If no one claimed it after 6 months, it ended up at the disposal of the government.
So let's recap the job description here. You are a traffic warden, a riot squad, a dog catcher, a cattle rancher, a weights inspector, and a lost and found clerk.
And you were always on duty.
No wonder they needed such strict discipline. But obviously there's a list of actual crimes, or specifically offenses, that they were looking out for. And Chapter 6 is basically a laundry list of don'ts for city life.
This chapter is my favorite part of the document because it is a direct window into the daily annoyances of the time. Laws are usually reactive, right? They write a law because someone did something annoying.
Totally. So when I see Section 60, false alarm of fire, I know someone was pulling the alarm for fun.
Standard public safety. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That one is pretty timeless.
But then you get Section 61, person being found under suspicious circumstances between sunset and sunrise.
Yes. the classic loitering statute.
This feels incredibly slippery.
It is. It gives the police immense discretion. If you are out at night and you can't give a satisfactory account of yourself, you are technically committing an offense.
Satisfactory account. So if the officer just doesn't like my story, I am in cuffs.
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tool for preemptive policing. The idea is to stop a burglar before they break in. But historically, these are the exact kinds of laws that are most easily applied unevenly. It targets the people who don't look like they belong.
Speaking of targeting, Section 69, begging.
But look closely at how it is phrased.
It specifies begging in an indecent manner.
And it lists exposing deformity or disease to solicit alms.
That is harsh. It feels really uncomfortable to read today.
It is. It is trying to regulate the aesthetics of poverty. They aren't solving poverty. They are trying to hide the ugly parts of it from the public view. It is about order and appearance. They wanted the city to look clean and orderly, even if the underlying issues remain completely unsolved.
And then straight out of a saloon movie, Section 75, cheating at games.
It is explicitly listed.
If you are playing cards or dice in a public place and you cheat, that is a police matter. Not a casino matter, a literal police matter.
Again, it causes fights. A cheater provokes violence.
And fireworks. Section 67 forbids letting off fireworks or even burning straw near a public place.
It really covers everything.
It feels like every single one of these rules was written because the commissioner got a headache one day. No more fireworks, no more cheating at dice.
Right.
And fix those bamboo poles.
Very likely. But I think it is important to balance this list of prohibitions. Because with all this power, arresting loiterers, seizing dogs, inspecting weights, deciding who is a scoundrel, you have to ask who watches the watchman.
Right. Is there any check on this? Because if I am a scoundrel, according to the Cotwall, I am in serious trouble.
Section 19 provides that check.
Vexatious search, arrest, etc. by police officers.
This is crucial. If a police officer abuses their power, if they search someone without justification or arrest someone just to harass them, what the text calls vexatiously, the officer themselves can be punished.
So they can't just storm into a house because they don't like the guy living there.
Exactly. It acknowledges that the tools of maintaining order can easily become tools of tyranny if left unchecked. It stops them from becoming a gang with badges. It puts a definitive boundary on their authority.
It is a self-correcting mechanism, or at least it tries to be.
It tries. Whether it worked in practice is a question for the historians, but the intent is absolutely there in the text. They recognize the danger of unlimited power.
So let's zoom out. We have gone through the document. We have seen the hierarchy, the traffic control, the dogs, the scoundrels. When we look at the Hyderabad City Police Act, 1348F as a whole, what are we actually looking at?
We are looking at a philosophy of governance.
How so?
Modern policing is often reactive. You call an emergency number, and they come to solve a problem that has already happened. A crime has been committed.
Right. The glass is already broken.
But this act envisions a force that is completely proactive. They are pruning the city. They are managing the flow of timber to stop the traffic jam. They are managing the drums to stop the riot. They are checking the weights to stop the argument. They are trying to curate a livable environment.
Curate. That is a really interesting word for police work.
It is accurate, though. It defines a police society not just as one free of murder, but one where the bamboo poles aren't too long, the music isn't too loud, and the beggars aren't too visible.
It assumes that for a city to work, thousands of tiny behaviors need to be perfectly regulated.
And that the police are the ones holding that delicate web together. They are the glue. Without them, the cattle block the cars, the weights are false, and the processions collide.
It is fascinating. In a world where we often talk about freedom as the absence of rules, don't tread on me, this document suggests the exact opposite. It suggests that a functional, thriving city is actually a collection of thousands of tiny restrictions.
And that freedom to move, or to trade, relies entirely on the restriction of the scoundrel or the unwieldy bamboo. You give up the right to carry your ladder however you want so that everyone else can get to work on time.
That is the tension, isn't it? And I think that is the perfect place to leave you, our listeners, today. We laughed about the notorious scoundrel clause, but think about the power that implies.
Wow.
At what point does the preservation of order, like deciding who is a bad character or which route a procession can take, cross the line from safety into controlling culture itself?
It is a very fine line, and every city draws it differently.
When the police decide who is amusing enough to get a license, are they just keeping the peace, or are they defining the city's soul? Something for you to mull over next time you see a no loitering sign or a cop directing traffic. That is it for this deep dive into 1348F. Thanks for being with us.
See you next time.